Go right ahead, Stefan.
Hey, George. Hey, everybody. How's everybody? Thank you for having me. Good to be here. Good to be back. Yeah, I guess I'm here on behalf of the SLP Foundation. If you can all see on my shirt here, I'm wearing the SLP Foundation t-shirt, or it's actually the SLP t-shirt, not quite the foundation yet, because we are allocating the donators' funds towards development and building versus actually on t-shirts at the moment. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, you're good to go.
Okay,
Yes, we can definitely hear
Okay.
you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So I put a bit of a presentation together, which I will share right now. And yeah, happy Bitcoin Cash Day, I guess, 3rd birthday. So it's great to see all the momentum that has come through. And I think one of the interesting elements is that we're constantly trying to drive through. And about a while ago, for those that don't know, SLP was set up as a technology. It was a protocol, and that has driven a lot of innovation. So I'm going to go a bit into the background, some of the initiatives that have taken place, and then also what the future lies and where business opportunity lies going forward, and what I will be doing in this area going forward as well, not only with the foundation, but us also as a for commerce business. So at the moment in the sort of SLP Foundation, there's a group of 6 people that are really sort of collaborating extensively. We have regular calls, chats, updates, roadmaps that have been developed, and communication that we're trying to share with the community. We're focused on 2 core languages, English and Chinese, and Genti in Chinese, just so that we can meet the largest sort of demographic and developer community out there. One thing that we are big believers on is the sort of Tokambrian explosion. And this, I'm coining it this from Gabriel Cardona, who was a Bitcoin Cash developer. And so basically, he is highlighting the age, the Cambrian age in the evolution of the planet, which created a large amount of biodiversity, and which is what created the animals that we have, the different plants, the type of weathers that we have, the different soils, all of that whole biodiversity was created. And so he tried to reflect that and translate that into the token explosion that is going to come. He coined that back in November 2018, where he did a presentation at the Atlanta Bitcoin Embassy, and that's available. You can see his tweet there and his link to the tweet, but it's available online on YouTube, where you can go and see in more detail what he talks about. And he makes references to a lot of, when Bitcoin first launched, it had the colored coins, which was really an enablement. And he goes into how we looked at across SLP, a modern version of the colored coins to be able to bring and allow the customization of tokens on top of Bitcoin Cash. This has become so popular. There's a group out there called ARK Invest, and ARK Invest is a venture capital firm, a very big one. They've invested in companies like Tesla and Facebook and other big sort of companies. And they do an annual sort of report around sort of trends that they're seeing across the various sectors where they invest in, from AI through to tech, through to electronic vehicles, robotics, etc. And so inside that report, they refer to the Cambrian explosion that we've been talking about since 2018. And so it's good to see that these institutions and funds are beginning to realize that actually this has gone past a point of no return. So it's unlikely that we're to see a big drop in performance, in development, in activity across the crypto ecosystem. And that is really fun to see, with governments trying to build their own coins, etc. And just to go quickly sidebar, what I found really interesting is inside that same report that is read by pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, or even the large university endowments that actually invest in venture capital firms to then pass on that funding through to technology startups, is inside that report that is read by all those constituents. You're seeing that they're talking about money will be transferred and stored seamlessly. In the fiat world, we don't have that today. Money will not be diluted arbitrarily. I don't think we can agree to that happening in the fiat world. It will be frozen and seized, and we're seeing that in Beirut, in Argentina, in a whole bunch of different countries around the world. And then money supply will be transparent, auditable, and not censored, and the record is immutable. So all of those elements that they talk about are all available on Bitcoin Cash, which is super good. And it's nowhere is it as fast, as seamless, and as cheap as on Bitcoin Cash. Just to give you a ratio, I did a transaction on Ethereum the other day, and just to show you, $22 gas fee on Ethereum. So, you know, it's not only, it's all the exchanges, when they're trying to do on-chain transactions, the price and the fees of their transactions go up significantly. And so they then look at the opportunity, and this is why it's such a brilliant time to be in crypto and Bitcoin technologies, and specifically on Bitcoin Cash, mainly because they then look at how money is around the world, they magnitude the size of the money, and then they put crypto will take a 5% market share or 15% market share. And if you look at the size of funds that are out there, just alone, digital gold is a $9 trillion industry. If Bitcoin can get alone 15% of that, and when they say Bitcoin, they mean the general Bitcoin technologies, right? So they're not just looking at the Bitcoin core, they're looking at overall, that's what they refer to as cryptocurrencies. And so they say, if we can replace gold and we capture 15% market share because of the transportability associated with gold, you have an $800 billion opportunity. And so you look at all of those elements, then anti-seizure, over 50 years, the lifetime value of that for 5% is $1 trillion industry. So there's lots of opportunity still for the tokenization of a lot of different assets, from gold to the protection of your funds, so it's anti-seized, etc. So there's going to be much more coming. But I'm going to go back to SLP again. And one of the things is, if you follow Crypto Kid on Twitter, he sends out a weekly update. If you follow him on read.cash, you will also get the weekly update on what's happening in Bitcoin Cash. And he does a very neutral view of just all the activities around the world that is happening every week. So you get a regular update. The one that ended last week, July 26th, he had a section in there that highlights SLP tokens. There are 9,500 SLP tokens created, a number nearly coming to 1 million transactions across all of those tokens, with a weekly transaction rate of about 10,000 transactions. So we're seeing a growth and uptake in the creation of tokens across the board. And you can see here some of the most popular tokens that are out there, from Mist Coin, which is the SLP token. So you can start mining for SLP and earn Mist coins, Maze, Honk, Flexcoin, etc. So, and there's I, right? So if you can see the Chinese one, that's the character for love. So somebody's created a love token that is pretty popular. It's in the top 10. So that's an interesting evolution. And the latest news, I'm not sure if all of you saw, but SLP, or US dollar Tether, now runs on SLP as well. So we now actually have Tether on SLP, $6 million worth. So assets under management on Tether is $6 million using SLP as a platform, giving it credibility and accessing and providing access to all these wallets and exchanges that support SLP will now be able to support Tether for SLP as well. And you can see that across the Bitcoin Cash community, where all of these communities are now also supporting Tether. Sorry, all of these wallets are now supporting Tether in their wallets as well. Just to give you an example, stablecoin is a big industry. We all hear about it. We know about it. We trade in stablecoins. But I think one of the things that's super interesting in the stablecoin is to realize that Tether is the big gorilla, right? The number 2 is USDC by Coinbase, and everybody else is in the 1 to 2% category. And so nobody else really plays a significant impact in this industry. And so that's why it's super important for us to be on Tether and working with Tether. And there's a whole community that was super engaged in making that happen. Not only representatives from the SLP Foundation, but we also had representatives from Bitcoin.com and other developers that were really helping out to make that happen. And I just want to share the love of all the participants in the ecosystem that made that happen, not to mention the traders and the buyers of the tokens that really got in early and bought the first tranche of SLP-based Tether tokens or coins. This is a report from Crypto Token, which is another member in our ecosystem, and they're based in Romania. It's become so popular, and today's the birthday, and I don't know, of those of you in China or that have a Coinex account, Coinex has a specific promotion, and you can see they're offering $20,000 worth of Tether as a part of a anniversary celebration. So if you don't have a Coinex account, set one up and get that launched. The other thing is Coinex also launched a Bitcoin Cash ecosystem, the Coinex ecosystem fund for all the companies building out DeFi solution, which is their primary focus. And so that's an interesting element for all you entrepreneurs out there looking for funding. There's another opportunity to talk to Coinex as well. And I'm not going to go too much into the history of what SLP has done and all the work we've created. You can go onto the read.cash SLP Foundation URL, and we are updating there regularly. About every 2 weeks, we post an update in terms of some of the progress that we've made, and our roadmap we will be sharing with everybody very shortly, and I'll come back to that a bit later on. But you can see regularly all the updates and what we're doing there. And we also have a Twitter account, and we're tweeting it across there. But one of the things that we're really excited in working on is twofold. One here is right now, we're building out a validation oracle. So truth services or sources of truth services on top of SLP, so you can actually access the various oracles that will be coming to the Bitcoin Cash community as well. And also up there, the Badger icon, right? So in the Chrome browser, how do we ensure that the Badger wallet works for web browsers as well? In addition to that, we're launching a website where you can find all the documentation. You will be able to see our roadmap, navigate your way around, communicate, sign up, sponsor. So we're really trying to build this foundation and really establish it. We've also built out documentation, slp.dev, where everybody can actually already go and get access to specific documentation, terminology, specifications. So a lot of these capabilities, Postage protocol, are available in a professional environment for developers to pick up with. Obviously, there will be some support. We're trying to improve this on a regular basis, and that's why we've allocated a lot of the funding to really provide a much better set of documentation to make it easier. I think the read.cash team had announced that, and that's very accurate, where they were highlighting the fact that by providing better documentation and tool sets, it would enable a lot of the developers to work faster and more streamlined in this ecosystem. And I think that would help. And they received significant funding for that. But that again is to build apps on top of the Bitcoin Cash operating system, as I call it, or our blockchain. How do we build more applications that have software developers, business developers, as well as UX designers? The design is really important if we are to grow the user base. And working with users through the onboarding process, through the utilization and engagement process when they're working with any kind of application, commerce service, etc., is super important and not to be underestimated. Nobody reads manuals anymore, right? I mean, RTFM or something. There was a word, right? I don't know if you remember, hashtag RTFM, read the fucking manual. Nobody does that anymore. So I think we have to make sure that across all the services, wallets, applications that we launch, it has to be as intuitive and streamlined. And that's also where investment needs to go towards. Other areas where I find Bitcoin Cash can really differentiate itself and really stand out is we're all very, we don't like regulation too much. We don't like very much the bureaucracy that comes with it, the papers, the documentation, the taxation, and the transparency associated with the flow of funds through that whole ecosystem. So as a result, one of the areas that I feel is very much aligned with those philosophies is really the retail sector or the commerce side of the business, where I can still take out my wallet, I can pull out some cash, some paper cash, and I can just pay anybody without any kind of registration or any kind of documents or KYC or passport requirements for travel. When I pass that money on, I don't need to write my name on here, Stefan Roos, and I'm giving it to you, George Donnelly, and this is for, so it's like an expense account, which in cash world you don't need. And so I think, how does that appeal to and work for Bitcoin Cash? And the other benefits that no other blockchain really has, particularly for on-chain solution, is the fast, cheap, and reliable and secure, right? So all of those elements, none of the other platforms really have. If you try to do an Ethereum transfer, unless you're paying $50 in gas fees, you're going to be waiting for 3 hours for a transaction to happen. If you're at a counter at a Starbucks and you want to pay for that, you don't want to wait that amount of time, and you don't want it to go through any other network. You want it to be full on chain and make sure that happens. We've already got a lot of constituents that are building in this environment, from the likes of Haven, Open Bazaar, that are building online marketplaces, AnyPay, Go Crypto, CycleBit, that have point of sale services, Purse.io and HoneyPay, that are building out loyalty programs and awards and tapping into capabilities to build, to provide consumers with better value propositions by using traditional e-commerce and retail services. And if we go back a couple of slides and we look at this industry today, it's a $25 trillion business. And if we just take 5% of that business in crypto, and then we say Bitcoin Cash owns a dominant share of that with our partners and our app developers, all of a sudden it becomes a significant size and huge opportunity that can reach a large user base in the market. How can we work together? And what are the protocols we need to provide to enable all of these providers across that ecosystem? We also looked at the loyalty and awards characters, right? Characteristics in terms of what is the opportunity in this market that is equally huge in terms of airlines, in terms of hotels, but also in terms of retail that have their awards, in terms of supermarket, grocery stores, and other industrial players that have loyalty and rewards and award services. There are companies that are publicly listed in the fiat world on exchanges like points.com, huge industry, right? Significant size. There is another token company in the crypto space, Flexa.coin. They're $100 million market cap based on coin market cap the other day. So you're seeing there's a significant opportunity in this market. This is very local. This scales. This is can be all tokenized, which allows for the translation, the seamless remittances and exchange between participants. We can leverage atomic swap capabilities to help drive those forward. So there are a significant number of opportunities and entrepreneurs today in the Bitcoin Cash community that are working on exactly those solutions. And I will, one of them is, and I'm sure he's going to be presenting at some point, I think Vin Armani, he's working on some really interesting solutions, but he came up with the post office, right? So how can we build inside the applications and the wallets that we have this toggle, as an example, in terms of how to use the post office and not. And what the post office does is allows you to pay transaction fees in the tokens themselves. So you do not need to pay the gas fees, for example. You do not need to have any Ethereum in your wallet. Or in our case, you do not need to have any Bitcoin Cash in your wallet in order to do an SLP transaction. And you will pay in SLPs. So that's a unique situation. And that is, again, a old Bitcoin core initiative that took place way back when that people were trying to launch, and Bitcoin Cash is innovating and bringing that to market, which is super exciting to see. And you can go to the GitHub repo and also to slp.dev and find any documentation and reference to this as well. And just to show it in action, I'm going to play a little video. This is been promoting what's happening down in Saipan in the Mariana Islands. Can you hear the audio?
No, I'm sorry, the audio's not coming through.
Okay, I don't know how I can get that through. But you can see he's paying using SLP. He's using USDH on SLP. Thank God the writing's there, so you should be able to see it. So he created an invoice, QR code, usual. So again, what happened there was the fact that two things. One, he paid the restaurant. It went to the wallet owner, the wallet of the restaurant owner. Then he paid an additional tip. That tip went to the server's wallet, so the waiter or waitress's wallet. And then lastly, he paid that with USDH using Postage protocol, so there were no underlying BCH fees. The transaction was paid using USDH. So if you combine all of those elements together, it was truly a unique transaction. one thing I feel, and where we're at in the world today, we are going through a coronavirus, and it's become so apparent that we need to change. The world needs to change in the way it was operating, right? Number one, how the existing establishment has allowed us to manage the environment and what they've done to the environment. We have trash everywhere. We have social problems. We don't enable access for everybody to participate in the financial ecosystem that has been created. And the governance doesn't work, right? We have people that are sitting in rooms that are defining what the lines are of a specific country, which is sort of a map, and how the world should be regulated based within those lines. And I believe that the blockchain is the solution to saving the planet and changing that way across those three segments of how things are going to be done. We can tokenize everything in the planet, right? We can tokenize the environment, we can tokenize, and we can then provide liquidity to those tokens. We can make marketability, we can bring it to the consumers, and we can create exchange around that. So that whole tokenization of saving the planet or providing value associated to what the consumers are appreciating, that can be represented appropriately through tokens. The mobile phone is the best social inclusion amount. We have all of the elements on here in terms of wallets, in terms of commerce capability, payments capability, Bcash. Everybody is really building out solutions for the mobile terminals and units. And then ultimately, as we build and put everything on the blockchain, there is no better secure truth machine than Bitcoin Cash and the blockchain. So how do we make that happen? And consumers are really looking for that. They want to invest in this category. They want to do something here. They are 81% are value-driven consumers who want goods, value that are not purpose-driven, right? Who look for products and services aligned with their own personal values. And they're willing to pay a premium to make sure that they know this is from a good source, it's reliable, there's no poison in there, etc. Maybe that's now due to the trends that's happening now with the COVID and the lack of availability to travel, or the permission to travel, that is resulting in that. And you can see solutions like Alipay have launched inside their applications. They have an app called Ant Forest, where they have 500 million users that every time they, let's say, walk to work, they create credits. Those credits are then used to plant trees. They can use a bike, they can take green takeouts, right? And so that's then impacting all the suppliers that then connect to their Ant Forest application. So if you're a mobike in China that allows you to rent bicycle, instead of taking a car, you take the mobike, that's then provided that information into the Ant Forest app, that then in turn is then used to plant trees or forests or specific other areas to bring down and offset other bad impacted industries. That based on that, all of a sudden, this could all be tokenized. Why isn't all of this tokenized? And why is this done with fiat? But what's happening is that's trickling into all of the industry. So all of these enterprises are beginning to say, oh my God, how do I provide reference, transparency, governance, that I am adhering to this, that this is accurate, so that they can then pass that on into applications like an Ant Forest, which then can use tokens to then offset that. And so how can we build a token army and a whole new asset class using tokens to win in this category and do good at the same time? And you can see the amount of investment that's going into this from real big companies, from Amazon, Jeff Bezos, who announced the $2 billion climate fund, to specific other companies, from Nike to Microsoft. They announced that they're going to be carbon neutral by 2040 since their inception. So going back since they were founded, they're going to calculate. How are they going to calculate that? Who is going to audit that? How is that going to be on the blockchain? What certificates are going to come out? How is that going to be represented? How is the consumer going to be able to access that and become aware of that? And what wallets will allow them, when they buy something from Microsoft or service from Microsoft, that they can then get rewarded accordingly for choosing that service? And what does that reward manifest itself in? And so those are huge opportunities that are going to come in this decade. And so for any entrepreneur out there building in this, there's going to be an exciting time to really create a whole new asset class and currency using tokens around the whole planet and supporting the whole planet and making sure everybody can partake in that. And so that's why I'm setting up Sonic Capital, which is a tokenized fund. We're tokenizing it, and we're going to be investing in companies across that ecosystem. We're going to be going for seed and Series A stage companies, so early in their evolution, and we will then help them go into their next stages of evolution. And those Series A or seed can be in the form of multiple different types of investments. So they can be tokens themselves. They can be security tokens in the term of it being a token, which is a representation of shares in that company, or it can be traditional shares as we know them traditionally today. It's going to go across a couple of areas. So in the enterprise, so who's providing certification on the blockchain for the enterprise? How are we engaging consumers, the exchange, DeFi, exchange capability for those tokens, the payment capability with those tokens, and distributing and enabling the consumers to partake in that, and ultimately the initiatives. What are the initiatives, the projects? How are they launching? How simple is it for them to create a token and manage the relationship with those token holders? You know, examples are like a mint.bitcoin.com, a tri-roll, in terms of all the ability for them to simply create a token and document that and put that on the blockchain. I won't go into this, but this is a whole thesis around each of those categories. And ultimately, what is the infrastructure needed? What are the protocols? What are the SDKs? And what are the data underlying that? Because in the end, what is going to become more important, we're going to be moving away from a world where your high school diploma or your LinkedIn profile matters. It's going to matter a lot less in 10 years' time or 5 years' time from now, where your wallet will be what we call an achievement portfolio, where I can see where your passions are, what you enjoy, and what you're about, where you came from, and what you're doing. And that is all going to be represented in the form of tokens, in terms of the project you've been involved with, the trades you've done with other people, etc. And so as that evolves, it's going to become a very different environment as we enter into the second half of this decade. But now's the time to build these applications on top of the blockchain and no longer focus. We don't need to build anymore on the blockchain layer. We need to now grow our developer ecosystem. We need to build applications on top of Bitcoin Cash, and Bitcoin Cash needs to operate professionally, scalably, so that we can, as developers and business developers, as well as UX designers, can rely on the tools and the operating system for the applications that we want to build. And that's what I wanted to share with everybody today. And I'm super excited, as I always have been. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for everybody to really build applications and join in this ecosystem. If you look today, blockchain is the #1 skill requirement on LinkedIn. So everybody is looking for blockchain expertise, or everybody is looking to enter into the blockchain ecosystem. Let's make it be Bitcoin Cash. Let's make it be SLP. and let them create awesome tools and solutions and applications to attract users and make sure that they're all got tokens in them that can be built using SLP. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Stefan Roost. I'm sorry we're gonna have to skip questions because due to some technical difficulties earlier, we're behind schedule. But thank you so much, Stefan. Real pleasure. Just so much substance there for people to chew on and think about.
Great. I mean, you can reach out to me, srust99. That's my Twitter handle. I'm happy to respond on anything on Twitter and see how I can help any aspiring entrepreneurs and any businesses out there. And good luck for the rest of the show. And thank you, George.
Thank you so much, Stefan.